Jeff Koinange, and this is Jeff Koinange live at the poolside of the Intercontinental Hotel. And you know, if it's Wednesday, it's all about politics, and there's been only one story dominating the news the last 48, 72 hours. That's right, the ICC. You probably heard every pundit, every expert, every political analyst talking, but you haven't seen these two. First time ever together on the bench. On my far end, oh yeah, Mr. Controversy himself, the shocker called Gachoka, Tony, is in the house, dressed as the Maharaja himself. His Twitter handle is @Tony Gachoka. In the middle is a man who doesn't come to town very often, but he writes every week in the Sunday Standard. Makau Mutua is the Dean of the School of Law at the State University of New York in Buffalo. He's in town for a conference. He's on the bench. First time these two are together. His Twitter handle @Makau Mutua. Mine is @koinange Jeff. The hashtag is JKL. Let's start tweeting. Let's start talking. Prof, good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Good to see you in Nairobi. Tony.
Jeff, how are you?
Namaste. I don't know what to say, man. I don't know how to do it, but hey, you're looking good.
Thank you very much.
Prof.
Yes.
Today's ruling. Did you watch today's proceedings at all from The Hague?
I, was able to catch glimpses of it, from now and then because I was busy doing other things. But I did see glimpses of the proceedings.
Your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are that, this is a dark day for Kenya. And it's a dark day for Kenya because in 2013 and 2012, we argued very strongly as civil society in this country that Mr. Kenyatta and Mr. Ruto should not run for office. And that if they did, that there will be consequences to be paid. Not by them in particular, but by Kenyans in particular. And what we see today is the business of the country being brought to a standstill because of the challenges of an individual who should never have run for office in the first place.
I was about to say, Prof, you have vehemently opposed these two. You don't think they should be in office?
I don't think they should be in office. I think Chapter 6 of our Constitution is very clear. It provides for a certain ethical standards, and certain moral standards for people to be able to run for office. My view was that they should have been barred from running for office by the IEBC or by the courts. None of those did it. They went ahead and ran for elections and supposedly won the elections, but the cases continued.
Tony, ICC had no problem with these two running for office. These two were just suspects and still are just suspects.
Could I say this at the beginning? I used to refer to my friend the president as the son of Jomo. I now want to refer him as the father of Jomo. Because today, President Kenyatta became, in my view, one of the greatest leaders in Africa. He has become or has taken the Kapenguria moment. This was the 9/11 for Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. This is a man who let go of the trappings of power and went to The Hague as a sitting president, did not hide behind, and was ready to face justice. And justice is two ways, Jeff. You are either guilty or you are innocent. I am tired of choir masters who keep talking about the guilt of a person who is before a competent court of competent jurisdiction to try and find whether you're guilty or innocent. Today, the prosecutor was asked a question by the chief judge and the victim lawyer. Did Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta do anything using his office to interfere with your investigations in Kenya? Your Honor, no. The victim's lawyer was asked the same question, no. So do you have a problem with Uhuru Kenyatta? No. But we have a problem with the government of Kenya. Now, I want to be very clear. Uhuru Kenyatta has been charged by a court as an individual. He has a right to a fair trial. He is innocent until proved guilty. This idea that writers and political commentators can decide his innocence or guilt must stop now. Because the OTP today said when they were asked point blank, they said we have no evidence to sustain a case against Uhuru Kenyatta.
Okay.
We want an indefinite adjournment. Indefinite. In other words, Koinange, until Uhuru, God forbid, was to rest, they want an indefinite adjournment.
Prof, he's talking about you when he says commentators and political pundits.
Well, he's sitting next to me. He better not be talking about me, because I have a right hand. But you're my brother. I won't do anything to you.
And so is Uhuru.
Yeah. Yes. But let me just say this. I think it's preposterous to try to conflate the Jomo Kenyatta and the tribulations of the Kapenguria trial, which were lodged against him by the British, who are then colonizing Kenya, with the tribulations of Uhuru Kenyatta. Uhuru Kenyatta is accused by a competent international court, okay, the International Criminal Court, of which Kenya is a party, and of which Kenya has ratified the treaty and domesticated that treaty through the International Crimes Act. Uhuru Kenyatta is charged with committing crimes against humanity on Kenyans. Kenyatta was accused by the British for trying to liberate his own people. There is nothing that could be further from the truth than to try to conflate these two narratives.
But Prof,
and let me just say this.
Go on.
Let me just say this. I understand that my brother here is a diehard Jubilee supporter. Okay.
As are you a CORD supporter?
No, I'm not. I don't support CORD. Okay. I don't support CORD. I want to make this very clear. Okay. I don't support CORD. I support programs that are progressive for this country. But let me just talk about the case itself and just say this here. I know that my brother here is a very strong Jubilee supporter, but I think it stretches credibility when he takes a historical narrative that does not fit the moment and tries to overlay it. Okay. And you know what, Tony? What I would like you to talk about.
So
wait a minute. What I'd like you to talk about really is not just the the suspect. Wait a minute. I'll give you an opportunity.
Yes.
What I'd like you to talk about is really the victims. I have never heard you speak about the victims. Let me hear what you have to say about the victim. I am not saying that Mr. Kenyatta is guilty. I've never said that.
Professor,
he's a suspect.
Tony, talk about the victims.
No, hold on. Can I say this?
Go ahead.
I happen to hold the world record in Kenya of being persecuted. And before we started this live TV program, Makau Mutua asked me when I was jailed and by whom. May I tell him on air?
Go on.
I was jailed by 7 judges of the Court of Appeal. I was persecuted and I was sent to committee prison and I was committed to jail. Today, they called it, Justice Gachoka called my jailing a travesty of justice. The LSK Society and all international media, including Article 19, everybody wrote against my jailing by persecution. I have tasted the pill.
And I agree that you are persecuted. You are persecuted.
You cannot come here
I'm not talking about you as a victim. I'm talking about the victims of post-election violence.
I am answering you directly.
Yeah, answer me.
You cannot come here and call me a die-hard Jubilee supporter. I was in retirement and called by JKL to come and talk about matters serious. The office of the prosecutor today submitted in the International Criminal Court that they have no evidence.
And even Ocampo, Prof, former prosecutor, said, Tony, Ocampo said, this case is looking shaky.
So
Ocampo.
So how can you have victims?
Hey, look.
Excuse me. I want to be very clear about
Jeff.
this.
Hold on, Tony.
Look, Jeff.
One second.
Look, Jeff. I do not know what law school Tony went to.
Yes, thank God.
I have no idea what law school he went to. And that is not a statement about him, because he's a man of honor.
Yeah.
He is an incredible journalist. He is a great Kenyan. Okay? But on matters of law, listen to me. Nowhere has the prosecutor ever said, by the way,
yes,
that the suspects, namely Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta and Mr. William Ruto, are either guilty or innocent. That is for the court to decide. What she has said is that she needs evidence to be able to prosecute these cases. And she has asked the Kenya government to provide that evidence, as the Kenya government is required to do.
Now, Jeff, I've been asked by a professor of law to give evidence. And I want Kenyans watching here and worldwide to understand what is evidence. And I think anybody who went to common school understands evidence is something tangible. On the 29th of November 2013, the ICC issued a statement through its press office following the meeting of Assemblies of State.
Yep.
In the Assembly of State Parties, various 8 amendments were made to the Rome Statute. Specifically, one was made to the section 134 that deals with the issues of evidence and procedure. They adopted that you can use the video link. it was adopted that you do not have to, as head of state or important office holder, attend personally the issue of the Hague. It was adopted immediately by the Assembly of State Parties. Mr. Kenyatta's lawyers, KQC, argued these matters before a partial court and argued that these matters were passed by the Assembly of State Parties. They was disregarded. Today, the ICC had to do only one thing that I saw on CNN tonight. Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, the first sitting president, has been held before the ICC. Why am I asking you this? Because if the law matters to the ICC, how can they disregard an express amendment that has been passed? And this evidence for Kenyans to see.
I asked Tony to stay,
and I give it to you.
I asked Tony to stay away from matters of legal interpretation, and you know, and I'll say it again. The particular clause that you are referring to, okay, in which a head of a state may apply or may request to apply by video link, simply provides the court with the discretion to decide whether that person should appear in person or by video link. It does not say anywhere in that amendment that heads of state will not be required to appear. It doesn't say that.
Prof, can I ask you a question?
It doesn't say that.
Can I ask you a question, Prof?
It doesn't say that.
Can I ask you a question, Prof?
Yeah.
Was it necessary for the president to appear at a status conference? Was it necessary?
Let me say this.
He didn't even say one word.
No, wait a minute.
He didn't even say one word.
Wait a
Just to
minute.
humiliate him.
Let me say this. Let me say this. A cardinal principle of the rule of law is that no one is above the law. Not even the head of state. Okay? If you are to commit a crime, Tony, and you are summoned to appear in a court of law in Kibera, you would appear in a court of law in Kibera. If I was summoned to appear in a court of law in Milimani, I would do so. If Mr. Kenyatta is summoned to appear before a court of law, he should do so.
Prof.
That's a fundamental principle of the rule of law.
Prof.
All suspects who appear before the ICC can be required to appear in person.
Even at the status conference, not the trial, status conference.
Because according to the court, and you heard what the court said, and people like to conflate the judges with the prosecutor. And these are two different, by the way, parts of the ICC. The prosecutor is not the court. The judges said very clearly, Tony, they said very clearly that the case had reached a critical stage. And for that reason, Mr. Kenyatta was required to appear in person.
But no single lawyer, including Makau Mutua, can decide for the bench. And I'm saying that the ICC is a junior institution to the Assembly of State Parties. And that is why today's case is historical. Because whereas it was a case of the prosecutor against Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, they divided it into two. A case against the government of Kenya, which they threatened to actually take to Assembly of State Parties to sanction Kenya. And I can tell you right now, the African Union is doing a resolution to censor the ICC and the prosecutor. But before I come to that, no, I've given him his time.
Go on.
All I am saying, the ICC does not hang him in the air. In fact, the prosecutor said he's run out of hooks to hang. I don't know what he hangs on the hooks. But he himself has said, I can't do nothing more. So I want you, Uhuru Kenyatta, to order your government to self-incriminate yourself for me to jail you. I can't find you. I can't find your records. I can't. But look, you do this. You go and order everyone in Kenya to bring us evidence to put you in jail so we can do regime change.
No. You are getting excited, my brother. You are getting excited.
Thank God he's not my lawyer, the prosecutor.
Calm down.
We may need the fire extinguisher at this point.
No. Let me just say this first of all, Tony. I want to caution you again because you are making some outlandish statements. When you say, for example, the ICC itself, the judges are a junior party to the Assembly of State Parties, that's an erroneous statement in law. The Assembly of State Parties is a political body. Okay. Its work is to...
You could have this.
Just wait a minute. It's a political body.
Yes.
The court is a judicial organ.
Yes.
Okay? I want to make that very clear to you.
Yes.
So the court is an independent court.
Yes.
It is not told what to do by the Assembly of State Parties.
Right.
Okay? The document that controls, and governs the court is the statute itself.
Right.
And if the Assembly of State Parties would like to do something, it would have to operate within the statute itself. But let me just say this to you, Tony. Let me just say this to you. when you say that, the president is being asked to self-incriminate, for me, it sounds as though you're afraid. You're fearful that perhaps there's evidence that is out there within the government of Kenya that could incriminate the president.
Okay.
That's exactly what you're saying.
KQC answered him today. Look, he has a right to prosecute, but the president has a right to a defense. KQC said he has drawn the line on the sand. Every time the OTP ask him something, they want something more. He asks, he wants more. He says, hold on. We said witness number 11 and 12 were fraudulent and tried to extort money from the president. They refused to believe this. Those witnesses withdrew their statement, and they caused the president's confirmation.
Gentlemen.
And I'm saying this. It is important to fight for the victims, but it's also important to fight for the good name of somebody who could be wrongly before the court. It is not the job of the court to jail anyone at any cost. It will give you a fair trial. One of the tenets of a fair trial is the presumption of innocence.
Why are you afraid of due process?
I'm not afraid.
Why are you afraid
The defense counsel said.
No one.
The defense counsel
Tony, no one has said.
You have also said.
Tony, listen. No one has said.
Are you wrestling me?
No, I'm not.
I mean,
no one has said.
Wrestle my mind, not my body.
No one has said that they're going to.
You said the assembly of
gentlemen, I'm going to use the extinguisher. Tony, hold on. I got to read a text here because they're coming in thick and fast, and I got to cool you guys down, man.
I see your friend after the show.
No problem.
I see you got your voice back. Okay. There's a whole bunch of guys watching from a place called Habesha. It's an Ethiopian restaurant on Awings Kodek.
What do they say?
Table number 48. That's what they're saying. This is table number 48. They're saying, Professor Makau Mutua, you have been quoted in one of the dailies that you used to write for that you will never, ever support President Uhuru Kenyatta. Having seen what has transpired from the comment and also from comments by Johnny Carson saying choices of consequences, which you supported, President Uhuru ended up winning.
I did not support that statement. The statement is history. It was borne out by history, Jeff.
But, the first part.
There are consequences.
What are the consequences?
The consequences are that the president was at the ICC. Those are the consequences. Instead of transacting the business of the people of this country, he is at the ICC. Those are consequences.
I'll be allowed to make 2 points, very importantly. Uhuru Kenyatta voluntarily took himself to the ICC. He didn't accuse himself. His accusers are asking him to help them get more evidence because they have none, so they can jail him, number one. Number two, another resolution that was made at the Assembly of State Parties, it will be held in New York December this year. They will be appointing 8 new judges. The Assembly of State Parties appoints members to the court. Now, what I'm saying about the Rome Statute is not a legal issue. In fact, QCK today said this matter is even become political. The prosecution were presenting their crazy argument for indefinite adjournment, said even they suggest that they want that adjournment to go to the next general election. I have never had a prosecutor before a tribunal. No. I watched it. You are busy in meetings, and I watched it. You are busy. You are in New York. Look,
gentlemen, we're going to have to take a break.
He didn't want to take a break.
How can you argue? Don't let me go there, gentlemen.
Just
Tony, you have a nice suit. Don't let me ruin it.
Then tell him to watch something before he talks about it.
Gentlemen, we're going to take a break. Come back. Take a break. Come back. Okay. Oh my. This bench is too hot for me today, you guys. I'm going to have to leave you here. You guys argue it out, okay? At Tony Gachoka.
This is just theater. This is just theater.
At Makau Mutua. At koinange.
We won the election. They said this is theater. We beat them with 1 million votes.
The hashtag is JKL. Oh my. It is hot out here, folks. I don't know what it's like in your living rooms, but if you're leaning back, you better start leaning forward.